Good day, everyone. Today we will learn about the basics of communication. So first, let's define first communication. Communication is a continuous activity that operates within a certain context in which people exchange words, gestures, and other verbal and nonverbal behavior to create and understand information or messages. So basically, this means that communication is continuous. When we say continuous, it it always happens from the moment that we um, open our eyes. If we think of something, then we are already beginning or starting communicating. So if you ask your roommate na, uy, muskwela ba taron? So you are already starting the communication. And up until mag-eskwela na mo, you will get to meet your classmates, your teachers, then you are still communicating with them or interacting with them. So that is what we mean by it is a continuous activities. Now, it is said that it operates within a certain context. So, meaning there is a context in communication. Just like, for example, if you are at school, then it is if you are in a classroom and there is a lesson, there is a teacher, the context would probably be in a formal setting. No? It's not informal. For example, pag naalang mo sa inyong balay or sa inyong boarding house and you interact with your classmates, so the way you communicate with them is also different when you compare that one if naamo sa classroom, which is somewhat a formal meeting or a formal interaction between you and your teacher. So there is definitely a context in which people exchange words, gestures, and other non-verbal and non-verbal behavior. So in communication, we do not just mean the words or dili lang words ang pwede nga consider nato as communicating, but we can also use our gestures like our hand gestures, or even when we point at something and then mugamit ta sa atong lips, like di ba Filipinos, we are like that, like kung pangutan-on ta og uy asa ang asa dapita diri ang CR, tapos gamiton nato atong lips like ana dito. So mo point ta using our lips, so that is included as the non-verbal behavior. So we use the verbal and non-verbal messages for us to create and understand information or messages. So basically, when you're communicating, the goal here is really to understand each other and to exchange information. Now, communication, another definition is we say that this is systematic process of exchanging thoughts, ideas, information through language or symbols to create and interpret meanings. Meaning, when we say a system, there must be, kumbaga, a step-by-step process, or there is uh, different parts in communication that influences the communicative behavior so that you can effectively exchange your ideas, effectively exchange information, and through language, of course, we will use language, may it be English, Bisaya, Tagalog, and so on, as well as not just words, no, but also symbols or our gestures so that we can be able to create and interpret meanings. So now we know that what communication is or the definition of communication. Now let's move on with the key concepts in communication. So the first one is the process. So sabi natin kanina, communication, um, communication is a systematic process, right? So it's a process, meaning communication implies continuity and that one never stops communicating. So pwede ganit na we can consider that even if we are asleep, we can still be in a way communicating through our dreams. So if you dream of something, in that dream you are speaking, no? Sometimes when we dream, na apoy mga dreams na ay laing tao. So we are still communicating in that sense, no? So it's one actually never stops communicating. So when we say a process, uh, it is continuous, no? Padayon siya nga naga kahitabo or nag-undergo o communication. Now, communication is dynamic and continually changes. As communication is a process, it's not static. So, dili siya nga kuan lang stagnant, but communication evolves or communication is dynamic. So, communication is a process because it is an activity itself where you participate as a communicator, no? So, kaning umuyong process ang communication. One example here is that, di ba sabi natin, it continually changes. So, for example, katong first semester, when you go to college, maybe some of you, wala pa'y friends, no? So, kaning mga classmates ninyo karon is dili pa kayo mo anak ka close or you're strangers to each other. And meaning, dili pa kayo mo open to communicating with these new people, these new faces. So, ang communication, when we say it's dynamic, it continually changes. As time passes by, or right now, it's already the second semester, so most probably kailan na mo sa inyong mga classmates, di ba? So, definitely, the way you communicate with those strangers, nga katong first sem, stranger pa man mo, kuwa pa man mo nagkaila, so the way you communicate to them as time passes by actually changes. So, karon dili na mo mag-awkwardanay, or dili na kay ka maulaw, mutagad sa imuhang classmates, or siguro some of you have already built your barkada, no, or your circle of friends gikan sa first sem until now sa second sem. So that's what we mean nga naga-change ang communication. Now, communication as a process is continuous, moving, and ever-changing. Now, let's proceed with the second concept, which is a system. Communication involves a system, or communication uh, communication is within a system or happens within a system. So meaning, ang communication nato, it is influenced by the system. So unsa man yung system, ma'am? When we say system, it includes various um, uh, parts such as your culture, that's part of the system, your attitude, your language, your age, your race, your ethnicity, your religion, those are all parts of the system. So of course, when you communicate to someone, magkipag-interact ka, the way you communicate is actually influenced or affected by the system, kung asa kagikan, o sa imong background, or even the context that's part of a system, no? So sabi natin, a system is a group of interrelated parts that affect one another. So in communication, ang imuhang culture maka-affect on how you communicate with other people. Now, communication operates within the system. So, for example, the way you communicate is influenced or affected by the system, which may include your culture, attitude, yung sinabi ko na kanina. So, example here is, Filipinos use po and opo to show respect. So, di ba, that is already part of our characters as Filipinos, or isa na po na siya sa atong value, that we use the term po at opo para to show respect sa mga nakakatanda. So like, yes po, opo. But then again, other culture might have their own way of showing respect. So sa other culture, wala sila'y po at opo. So when they communicate to you, especially Western countries, no, they don't really have an equivalent English term for po at opo. Um, they are they are somewhat frank. So, prangka sila pag mga istorya sila, but it doesn't mean that they don't respect you or they don't respect the elderly. So, nga na siya, lahi lang yun. Kitungod lahi man ilang background, lahi ang ilang system, it also affects the way they communicate. Sa ato Filipinos naman, since nakasanayan na yun nato magpo and opo, so kapag ka wala ta nagpo and opo, and we are talking to an elderly, pwede ta ma-perceive as kaning irrespectful, or meaning dili ka wala ka nagtahod, or wala nimo girespeto ang tigulang just because you don't use the word po and opo. So that is what we mean by ang communication. It really operates within a system, or like kung unsay mong background, it will affect the communication process or the communicative behavior. So that's it. How one communicates is influenced by one's culture or by one's system. Another key concept in communication is the symbols, the use of symbols. Of course, we cannot really express something if we don't use symbols. So when we say symbol, this may be an object or an activity representing something or an abstract concept. So for example, when we say apple, the word apple actually represents the fruit that is apple. Diba? Ma-picture out na ninyo siya sa inyong hunahuna kung si dagway ani apple. Now, we also have abstract words or abstract concept, just like the concept of love. So when I say love, the word love, also may gina-represent ana. Can you picture out a certain specific object nga love? Like kani, love ni siya. So di ba wala because it's abstract. But we can still express love through our actions. So that's the use of symbol. It may refer to the word or it may refer to the action which represents something, a specific object or an abstract concept or idea. Now, people use symbols to communicate effectively. Symbols are embedded in messages, and examples of symbols, we have language. So, ang English, ang Tagalog, ang Bisaya, those are what we call symbols, no? Ang spoken and written words, the exact words that we use, those are symbols. Non-verbal gesture, our gestures atong hand, our facial expression, like if you are happy, di ba, syempre mag-smile ka, no? So, that non-verbal behavior is also a symbol. And so these symbols are used in communication. So sabi dito din, communication is symbolic as it involves interaction with and through symbols. And symbols allow people to perceive abstract or ambiguous concepts. Just like as what I've mentioned, for example, love, there is not really a specific object na, kani, love ni siya. So, papalita og love. So, walay specific certain kind of object, no, that would represent love. But the way you act, for example, a man gives, since it's Valentine's Day kagahapon, when a man gives you something like a flower or sundoon kaniya or ihatod kaniya sa school, that would constitute or that would imply that that man loves you. So, in ano, no, abstract concepts can be explained or can be depicted through actions and through the use of symbols. So the act of giving flowers, the act of giving chocolates, those are all symbols. And you use that one so that you can be able to effectively communicate to other people. Now let's go with the meaning. So most probably, if you uh, if you are communicating, you your intention is for you to be understood, and that is in the meaning of the message nga imuhang i-convey sa imuhang kaistorya. So with the use of symbols, naa kay meaning na gusto ma-interpret sa imuhang ka-istorya, di ba? So meaning now is what is conveyed in a conversation. What is the meaning of these symbols, no? So it is said that meaning is the heart of communication or the end goal of communication. So let's always remember na when we communicate, dili na siya kay tungod wala lang ko'y reason. But the reason why we communicate is for us to be understood. So we intend to be understood or generate common meanings. Okay? Now there's two level of meanings. The first one is the content level and the second one is the relationship level. So when we say content level, this is the literal meaning or the denotative meaning of your message. So literal yun siya na meaning. Like for example, when a boss asks his employee, kani siya na question, may you attend the meeting? So may literal meaning ana. So it literally means that your boss wants you to attend the meeting. So or the boss wants your presence or the employee's presence in the meeting. So literal no nga mo gina siya iyang meaning. That's the content level. Now, the relationship level would depend on the level of relationship the employee and the boss has or have, no? So, relationship level, this is, kumbaga, the connotative meaning or the other meaning or like, um, kasi when we say relationship level, it depends on different people. So it depends on your personal interpretation of the meaning. So kung, for example, the same scenario, your boss would ask you nga, oy, may you attend the meeting? Like, let's say, for example, you and your boss are, you're very close and kumbaga, you're friends and you have been working for a very long time. Kung mag-ask imong boss sa imuha, may you attend the meeting, aside from the content level nga, ay, okay, gusto ko sa akong boss nga na ako sa meeting. Aside from that, you may also interpret that same message nga, ay, ako ang paadtuon sa meeting kay tungod, I am a trusted employee. So that now is the relationship level meaning. So ibang meaning na siya compared to the content level meaning. Kasi parang you already have your own interpretation, no? Na anay mga implications, kumbaga, kay tungod, tungod dugay na mo nagtrabaho sa imong boss, or dugay na mo nagkatrabaho, then you might interpret that same question as, ay, okay, nag-ask siya kung pwede ba akong mag-attend sa meeting kay tungod tungod nag-trust siya nga dapat ako gid ang naa sa meeting and not any other employee. So it could be like that. Now, if for example dili mo close sa imong boss, so relationship level, dili mo close sa imong boss, you siguro in the past sige ra kag suguon sa imong boss na, hey, kani adto ini, himuan ni or whatever. So you really you see your boss as bossy, no? You see your boss as kanang murag sige ra man siya panugo, oy. Now kung mangutan na imong boss the same question, may you attend the meeting? You may interpret this one as kuan katuig nga to kanang murag maisip nimo nga, sige na lang ako na lang man pirmi ang paadtuon sa meeting. So you might interpret it differently because your relationship with your boss is not so good, no? So I think I hope we understand what relationship level meaning is. Kung content level, literal, mora gid ihang ginapasabot, wala nilain pa. Pag relationship level, it will vary depending on the receiver and of course the relationship of the communicators, kumbaga the relationship of the sender of the message and the receiver of the message. Now let's move on to elements of communication. So, kumbaga, when we say elements, these are components, no, na nagabuo sa communication. The first one is we have the people. So when we say people, tayo ito, people are communicators. So in communication, the element people, which is us human beings, we assume two roles in communication, in the communication process. The sender role and the receiver role. So kaning na mga roles are not performed independently, but continually and simultaneously. Meaning, dili nga, for example, nagstoryahanay ta, dili pwede nga ako lang gid ang sender, tapos receiver lang gid ka, magsige lang gid kag receive, magsige lang po jud kog hatag. So just like, in a relationship, it should be give and take process. So kung naghatag ko, dawat ka, muhatag pud ka, mudawat pud ko. So that's what we mean by these roles are not performed independently. Okay, but continually and simultaneously. So at the same time, nag-send kog message, na-receive nimo ang message, maghatag po kag message as a feedback. Tapos ako na po mo receive. Okay? So that's what we mean by we assume two roles. Ang people nga element assumes two roles in the communication process. So roles are not mutually exclusive but coexistent. Next one, we have the message. When we say message, this is an element that is, the message itself nga imuhang i-convey or ihatag sa imong kastorya. So message can be in the form of verbal or non-verbal. When we say verbal, it's the use of words. You just like what I am doing right now. I am giving you a lecture and I'm using words. So this is definitely verbal communication. So my message is my lesson, no? But at the same time, I'm also using non-verbal um, communication by using my hand gesture. Maybe dili ko siya maklaro sa ato ang lecture, I mean sa video, but I am using my hand gesture to, kumbaga, to supplement my verbal messages. And even my facial expression right now, this is a form of nonverbal communication. So this could also be, this could also mean something. So when we say message, kana siya, pwede na siya in verbal and nonverbal. So message is what you intend to communicate. Now let's move on with channel. When we say channel, this is also called the medium in which the message is delivered. Unsa nimong i-deliver ang message? For example, kung mo yung tag-airwaves, kunyari, the medium or the channel is airwaves, that's through television. If it's sound waves, that's through radio. So, mamino tag news or even katong mga radio, telecom, good nga kanang copy, roger that. So those are sound waves. No? So you use radio. Now sound and light waves, one example is the face-to-face communication. Because, makita gid nimo ang iyahang nawong, so there's a light wave there, and the sound wave, which is our voice. And as we are very advanced right now, we have the technology. That's why currently I am lecturing to you using, kumbaga, I'm recording this lecture and talking to you or communicating to you our lessons. So ang channel pwede po mag-include of technology, social media, email, phones, and whatsoever, face-to-face communication, and all of those things. Okay, so let's move on with feedback. Feedback is another element of communication, and feedback is just a response. No? It's another form of message. So pag naka-receive kag message, you are ought to interpret that message and then give your response. No? Mag-reply pud ka kumbaga. So it's a form of message or response. And same with message, it can be verbal or non-verbal. Okay, so that's feedback. Though the next element is the code. When we say code, this is simply the language. As BSIS students, di ba mga IS students man mo, so di ba you have code, and kumbaga, para sa inyo ha, code is like the language of, I don't know, computers or something, whatever inyong gina-work on, no? But I know you know code. So in communication, code as an element is the language that we use. So we use English, we use Tagalog, we use Chinese, Mandarin, Japanese, and so on and so forth. So muna siya ang code sa communication. Now, code is a systematic arrangement of symbols to create meaning. So, syempre, in every language, naamgid na yung rules, no, na ay, kumbaga, subject-verb agreement so that you can be understood. So, sometimes, kapag dili systematically arranged ang words, ang imuhang code, dili po ka masabtan. Just like sa inyo sa IS, di ba naamoy ka ng, codes. I know what codes look like, no, sa inyo hanay ka ng mga asterisk, ay mga sa tawag mga dash and something, mga number. Pag naamoy mamali isa lang ana, di ba dili masabtan, dili kumbaga, dili siya ma-display og tarong or ma-translate og tarong sa katong, kunyari you are developing a web page or something, di ba? Mag-error. So, ingana gyapon sa communication. We need to really arrange the words that we use so that we can be understood, okay? And to able to create meanings. Now, encoding and decoding is kumbaga, ito yung mga ginagawa natin as a person, as a sender, as a receiver. I will encode and I will decode at the same time. So when we say encoding, It is the process of translating an idea or thought into a code. So meaning putting your thoughts into words. So for example, nagaisip ko karon og um ano to ba? Ay, ano na lang. For example, I will ask you, the teacher would ask you, okay, how would you describe your ideal partner or ideal man, ideal woman? So at this moment, maybe you are thinking something or someone, no? Na ay nag-materialize nga picture dira sa inyong utok. Unsa ang dagway sa ako ang ideal person, ideal man. So, for example, when we say encoding, so i-translate man nimo imong idea, no? So you already have the picture of the man, the woman of your dreams. And syempre, pag motubag na ka sa imong teacher, i-translate na nimo kumbaga ang imong thoughts into words. So, mayon ka karon nga, my ideal person, ma'am, is ano, tangkad, taas og ilong, blue ang mata, dato. So that's already encoding. From your thought, you are putting it into words. Okay? Not just words ha, but also actions as well for those ideas and concepts that are abstract. Now, when we say decoding naman, this is the process of interpreting or assigning meaning to an idea or thought. So, for example, giingnan kag I love you sa imong crush or someone. Tingnan kanya, uy, I love you, uy, love tika. Now when we say decoding, you are actually interpreting na karon, no? Ano sa may ginapasabot ana niya I love you. So that is already decoding. Kumbaga i-decode nimo ba unsa ang message behind that I love you. Okay? So kunyari katong another example, let's go back to my example katong pag-ingon ako sa inyo ha, okay, think of your ideal man. So, syempre, you're not just encoding, but you're also decoding. Nag-decode ka actually una, usa ka nag-encode. Kasi, imo sanggi interpret ang question sa imong teacher. Okay, ideal man daw. So, meaning, gusto ni ma'am mabalaan ko unsa akong preference. So, that is decoding. Okay, you are interpreting or you're assigning meaning to an idea. Kapag encoding na, gikan na sa imong thought, imo nang gipagawas, gi-show na nimo. Okay? Okay, the last element of communication is what we call noise or barrier. So when we say noise, it could be literal na saba ang palibot, it could be a literal noise na kumbaga, syempre pag saba ang palibot, tapos nagstoryahanay mo sa imong friend, sometimes dili mo magkasinabot because there is a noise or a barrier. Or for example, when we are having a class lecture, and then sama kayo ang pikas classroom, nagsyagit-syagit sila, so dili ta magkaintindihan. And the message that I will deliver to you will not be effectively delivered, or sometimes dili mo makasabot kay tungod nahinder, kumbaga na ay barrier sa inyohang pag-listen. So noise or barrier is any interference in encoding and decoding process. So it interrupts communication and causes communication breakdown or misunderstanding. And it also affects the clarity and understanding of a message. Like for example, nakagitawagan, tapos hinay ang signal, no? Tapos niingon ka sa iya nga, oy, choppy ka, choppy. So, niingon kag choppy, tapos, syempre, hinay mang signal. So, ang imong tingog nagputol-putol, no? Sa katong imong kaistorya. So, instead nga, instead nga, ayang madunggan kay choppy ka, ang iyang nadunggan is chubby ka. Uy, chubby ka, chubby ka. So, there will be misunderstanding kasi wala niya na dunggan og tarong because of the noise. Now, there are types of noise. The first one is physical noise. Literally, physical gid ni siya nga ato ang ma-perceive sa atong senses. So, these are external noise perceived by the senses. Example na lang is kato ingon nako nga loudness of the surrounding. So, dili nimo kayo madunggan ang message kapag saba ang palibot. Okay, so that's physical noise. Or, yeah. So let's move on with the mental or psychological noise. So when we say mental, has something to do with your mental capacity, no, or your psychological being. Now these are mental disturbances. Like ang example na to ani is kanang pagiging absent-minded or pagiging close-minded. So specifically, for example, you are undergoing nag-eskwela ka tapos last night, char, kung anong hapon, kanang Valentine's Day. So, last night, nagbulag mo sa imong uyab on a Valentine's Day. So, syempre, karon sa pag-eskwela nimo karon kay mo eskwela mangyud ka, your mind is not really in the classroom, no? Kumbaga, you are very much preoccupied, absent-minded ka. Ang imong mind tuwa pa naghuna-huna nga nganong nagbulag man mi, magbalik pa kaya mi, unsa man akong pagkukulang. So meaning there is a mental disturbance. Dili meaning nga buang ka, but it's just that your mind is disturbed. Now pag pangutana kasi mong teacher, oh okay, ano Mark, Mark daw kuno imong pangalan. Mark, ano, can you explain to us what communication is? Now dili ka makatubag kay tungod wala ka nakapaminaw, okay? Kay tungod ang imong utok wala diri sa classroom tuad didto sa imuhang uyab nga nagbulag mo. So that's an example of mental or psychological noise. It doesn't mean nga bugo ka, wala ka kasabot sa message, but it only means nga there is some type of noise. Kaya wala nimo na receive ang message because your mind is not in the classroom at that moment. So you are absent-minded ana na time. You are present but your mind is absent. Close-minded naman kana ganing gahi kay ulo dili maminaw kana maski unsa nimong correct sa iyaha dili gyud maminaw. So that is a type of mental or psychological noise. Kana feeling niya iyahang ways lang yun ang tama. Okay? So, dili gid mo magkasinabot kung dili gid niya gusto i-receive ang message nga imong ginahatag sa iya. Now, last type of noise is the semantic noise. When we say semantic noise, this is characterized by differences in interpretation, meaning nagkakaiba-iba ang interpretation nyo ng message. So what's the reason for this? Most of the time, the reason for semantic noise is lahi mong background, no? Lahi mong culture, lahi mong gikadaan. That's why dili kaayo mo magka sinabot. So this arises due to lack of common or shared background. For example, Filipinos using the lips to point at things. So, kana uso gid na sa ato ang kanang pagtapulan gid kay tamo tubag mo ana lang ito, mga anak lang ka, di ba? So, you use your lips to point at something. But sa ibang culture, that is not um, interpreted as pointing to something, but it is interpreted as you are seducing someone. So, syempre, kunyari, nilaag ka diha nga certain culture, no? Tapos, nagamit-gamit ka sa imong lips to point at directions or to point at things. So, you will be misunderstood. So, di ka masabtan sa imong kaistorya. Kay abi niyag, nagaseduce ka, no? Kumbaga, gapang-akit ka. But, in reality, nagapoint lang gid ka at things. So that's what we mean by semantic noise. Kay tungod lain-lain man mong background, lain-lain pud ang inyong pagka-interpret sa sa certain things. Another example, mag-isip sa another example, for example, na akay classmate that grew up in ang iyang family is normal lang kayo sa ilaha nga mag-hug, maging clingy, magpakita og kanang mag-show og love and care, normal sa ilang family. Now you came from a background wherein unfortunately dili ana ang norm sa inyo ha. Dili kayo showy imong family, dili kayo sila clingy or whatever, and then you came to communicate with each other, no? Say for example, kani si clingy na person, always cares for you, no? Ginahatagan kaniya papel, pasundo kaniya, ano kaniya, alagaan kaniya, no? Because that's the nature of that person. Now, ikaw, nga dili na anad sa ingana, that's not your background, you might misinterpret that action as, kumbaga, ay, naku, gusto siguro ni siya sa ako, kaya nga murag caring man kay siya, ano nga magsige man siya panghatag og papel nga maglibre man siya permanente. So but in reality ang katong first person is ing ana lang gyud di ay siya. Wala gyud di ay siya lain nga kumbaga pasabot adto dili pod nga gusto pa niya or nagapangyab siya or something, but it's just his nature. That's how he shows his care for other people. So ing ato jud siya sa tanan. Kumbaga uh, the interpretations lahi imong interpretation lahi pud gyud ang iyang message nga gusto i-intend sa imuha or i-convey sa imuha. So that is a semantic choice. Okay, so now let's move on with communication models. So we have three, kumbaga, general types of models, na communication models. By the way, models, this illustrates or depicts the communication process. Pwede nato tanawon ang paunsag yun ang process of communication through the communication models. So the first one is the linear model. So when we say linear model, this is one way or straightforward communication. In a linear model, kay di ba kumentag linear, kumbaga straight line lang gina siya. Diri nagsugod, diri mag-end. So, it's one way, one direction or straightforward communication from sender to receiver. As easy as that. So, it's a one-way type of communication. Now, we have first example in the under the linear model, which is Laswell's verbal model. This is developed by Harold Laswell. So kaning kay Laswell's verbal model, sabi ni Laswell, communication can be understood by answering 5 questions. So, ma-understand daw nato ang flow sa communication if we answer these 5 questions. Now, Laswell's verbal model is the simplest model. No? Dali ra kay siya sabton from from sender to receiver. So, as you can see on your screens, mao ni siya iyahang 5 questions. The first question is who, meaning when we say who, this is the sender. Kinsa. Kinsa man ang mag-send. So, it's the sender or the source. Now, when we say says what, unsay giingon sa sender. So, unsa man ang unsay giingon, what element is that? That is the message. Diba? So, naanatay who for the sender, says what as the message, in what channel is literally the channel. Unsay channel gigamit. Unsay medium nga gigamit, face-to-face ba? Through text ba? Through video call ba? So that's the medium or the channel. Now, to whom? When we say to whom, who is the receiver? Para asa maning a message. So to whom? That's the receiver. And lastly is the with what effect. So maybe there is some form of effect once the receiver receives the message. So as simple as that, muna siya ang Laswell's verbal model na atay who as the sender, says what as the message, in what channel as the channel or the medium, to whom as the receiver, and with what effect as some sort or some form of effect. So another example of a linear model is Shannon and Weaver's model. So, kani siya, develop ni siya ni Claude Shannon and Warren Weaver. So, in Shannon and Weaver's model, same thing, linear lang gihapon ni siya, gikan gihapon sa sender, naka-message na kay receiver. But in Shannon and Weaver's model, nagdungag sila og element nga noise. So, di ba, remember, previously, nag-tackle ta na in a communication na agi noise or na disturbances. Now, this is a communication model that is patterned to a telephone communication. That's why, mapansin ninyo, ang iyang terms nga gigamit is, transmitter, ana na ay, kumbaga, receive signal, receiver, destination, and so on and so forth. So, same thing lang gihapon. We have information source or the sender. You have the message, syempre, gikan sa source na, magina siya bit-biton nga message, diba? Now, kaning transmitter, ang ginapasabot nila ani is kanang, kumbaga, telephone lines. So, kinsa may mag-transmit ani imong message. So, for example, telephone lines or any waves, radio waves, or whatever. Naa kay channel now. Diba? Kasi, unsa man, through what channel man, through the telephone itself or through the cell phone itself. So that's your channel. Now naay noise nga pwedeng mag-block sa imuhang channel. So it could be in this sense, kung sa telephone communication ni siya, ang noise ana is kapag ka wala kaayo kay reception, no? Ay, wala kay signal, no? Wala kay dili ka ka-receive og signal or di kay hinay kayo mong signal, so that would be the source of the noise. And then from there, maabot siya sa receiver, kumbaga katulad gyapon lines, telephone lines lang gyapon, nga mag-receive and then still carrying the message and the destination asa padulong or kinsa ang makadawat sa message. So as you can see, Shannon and Weaver's model is still linear. Naa kay sender, naa siya message, na ay noise, and then na ay receiver. Now, linear model is, kumbaga, this is gi-judge, or gi-criticize. It has been criticized because it does not involve feedback. Wala siya nagpakitag feedback. But in communication, di ba sabi natin, communication is two-way. Communication must involve give and take. So therefore, dapat na ay feedback. Now, in Shannon and Weaver, and as well as kay Laswell, walay feedback na gi-indicate, di ba? So kaya siya linear. So this problem is actually na siya solution, which is the next type of communication model, the interactive model. So the interactive model, kanini siya, this is a communication that is two-way. Kasi it already involves feedback. So there is an exchange of information or interaction in the interactive model of communication. Now, in this type of model, the added element, they added the element feedback as depicted in the model of Wilbur Schramm. So, kaning gipakita nato dire, nakita ninyo sa inyong screen, that is the Schramm's model or the interactive model of communication. Sabi ni Schramm, the field of experience, because you can see their fields of experience, no? The field of experience is important because it is the reason why misunderstanding occurs. So, bakit kaya? Ano kaya itong field of experience? It's also said that the larger the shared of experience, or the larger the common, no, the more common the field of experience is, the the more, I'm so sorry, it's wrong, no, the more successful communication is kapag ka mas dako inyuhang, mas daghan mong shared na field of experience, mas successful ang communication. So as you can see in the screen right now, we have here a simple Venn diagram. So the first circle here, you have the source, which can encode and decode at the same time. And the second circle, we have the receiver, which can also encode and decode at the same time. So, naatay part diri sa tunga, diba? In Venn diagram, the part in the middle is the shared part or the common part. So, you have your field of experience as a source, and you have also your own field of experience as a receiver. And when you communicate, you need to have shared field of experience for communication to become effective. So, mo ni siya inyong shared kaning nasa tunga, that's your shared field of experience. Okay, nag-pause ko kadali kay na inaabot. Anyways, where are we? So, when two people communicate, dapat na ay shared of experience so that you understand each other easily, no? So, ang kaning field of experience, mo po di siya nga atong ginaingon kaganina nga it includes your language, your culture, your background, your religion, and so on and so forth. So, syempre, the more nga shared ang inyong field of experience, mas magkasinabot mo. Think of your best friend, no, or your circle of friends. Anong naging close man mo? Because that's maybe because same mo og trip, no, or same mo og kumbaga ka wavelength mo ba? Same mo og um, hobbies, or same og likes or dislike, or naamoy isa ka person nga same mo ginahate na ninyo siya. So meaning daghan mo og shared field of experience, that why nagkasinabot mo. But if you don't have the same likes, you don't have the same hobby, or wala kayo mo something in common, di ba dili kayo mo maging close. Isipan na lang katong mga dili nimo kaayo close, anong dili nimo sila close, kay tungod lahi ang ilahang um, fun is different for them. So, for example lang na siya ha. So, ingana ang ginamin sa interactive model, dapat daghan tag shared field of experience so that we will understand each other better. Specific example, kunyari ikaw, Pinoy ka, tapos naakay uh, nakaila nga AFAM, or kanang tagalaing nasod, Westerner, American, ano na lang, no? So, for example, di kaayo kakasabot og English tapos gipangutana kaniya sa airport, nakita mo sa airport, nangutana siya nga, where can I, atay, lisod yun na yung English, no? Where can I get a cab? Char, a cab. So, where can I get a taxi here? Nga ikaw ka, wa makakasabot og English kay ultimo rin pud kaayo ta. So, kunyari, for example, no, wala ta kasabot sa iyang English. So, meaning, di gyud ta magkasinabot, di gyud ka katubag sa iya kung unsa man yung ginaingon nga, where is the cab here? Unsa man ang cab? So, ingana ang ginamina to nga dapat naamoy shared field of experience for you to understand each other. So, yeah, so that's interactive model. Again, it's two-way, no? Na ay sender, na ay receiver, tapos dapat na sila shared field of experience for them to understand each other better. Okay, so the last type of communication model is the transactional model. When we say transactional, kumbaga murag elevated, mas ano na ni siya, mas improved na ni siya compared sa interactive. Well, interactive model is somewhat a good model, no? Kasi it captures the two-way nature of communication nga na kay sender, na kay receiver, na ay message, tas na ay feedback. But a transactional model is better than this one because it has the time element. So, makita ninyo sa inyong screens, di ba, naatay time. So, ang time element in this model is depicting or depicts that communication is dynamic and changing. And remember, na-mention ako kaganina nga communication is a process, di ba? It's continuous and thus it is dynamic, it is changing, it is not stagnant. So, that is well captured in the element of time. So, it depicts nga ang communication, mag-change gid ni siya through time. The same with what I mentioned earlier, na you started as stranger. Sa imong friend karon, you started as stranger. Dili mo kayo magstoryahanay, dili kaayo mo mag-share og your day or whatever. But as time passes by, you get to know each other better. So that is the time element there. It means that as you get to know more about each other, your communication behavior also changes from that of, awkward, ay, hi, hello, and smile, smile lang gamay, to katong very close na gid kaayo mo that you can even prank your friend. Kumbaga, you can say mean things to your friend without your friend getting offended. Like kana imong mga barkada karon, katong sa una nga nagkaila pa lang mo, 'di ba? Dili pa kaayo ta kumbaga comfortable with saying the truth sa ilahan, no? Nga kunyari bahog di ilang ilok, ana dili lang ta mo ingon sa bahog ilok, hindi pa makay mo close. But as time passes by, katong close na kaayo mo sa imong friend, it's, dili na siya problema, di na siya offensive kung ingnon nimo imong friend nga, uy girl, buhok kay kag ilok girl pangit kay mo sinina ron girl, because as you can see, communication is changing because of time, kay tungod um nagdugay naman mo nagkauban, mas naging comfortable na mo with communicating to each other. So that's what is good with the transactional model. It involves the element of time. Aside from that, it also depicts that communication is occurring within a system. So sa, 'di ba, ingon ta kaganina nga one key concept of communication is it occurs within a system. So meaning, the culture, the attitudes, the character, your background plays a role in how you communicate. Okay. Aside from that one, in transactional model, um, the the model itself does not label one as the sender and one as a receiver, but uses the term communicator to depict that communicator, communication roles are not exclusive. Remember, sa element nga people, 'di ba? I've told you nga people assumes two roles as a sender and as a receiver. And sending and receiving is never mutually exclusive. Dili sila kumbaga lahi-lahi dapat ba or independent dapat. That's why in the transactional model, it's better to use the term communicators para kumbaga dili ka ma-label as ikaw sender lang ka, ako receiver lang ko. Kasi as a receiver, I also send. You as a sender, you also receive. So that's one good thing about the transactional model is katong term na communicator. And lastly, the transactional model is a model in which people interact with and through symbols over time to share and create meaning. It's most probably the most fitting model to depict the communication process as it encompass the communication as a process, as having a system or operating within a system, and having symbols to create shared meanings with each other. So makita nato na siya, oh, there is also a shared field of experience. So parang it's an elevated form of the interactive model na agihapoy field of experience ang communicator A, ang communicator B, and naapod sila shared field of experience. And every time they communicate with each other, it is symbolic because we use symbols to um, convey something or to interact with something. And all of these things, the communication process is influenced by the time and the system in which it operates. So that would be all. I hope you learned something in our first lesson. So thank you so much for listening, everyone.